Good morning. I'm Ryan. I'm a third-year dental student at Marquette. And I just wanted to start by, again, saying thank you so much for inviting me to come today and for your continuous support of Lutheran Campus Ministry. When Pastor Jess was helping us figure out what we were going to talk about, she said, try and think of a fun fact about yourself. And one for me is that I've never gotten a ticket while driving. It's one of those unique fun facts because it kind of always gets people talking. Because if you're anything like my dad, you've gotten a ticket, but it was totally uncalled for. Now, I haven't gotten a ticket, but what I do find myself doing is losing my patience whenever the cars parallel park with enough space for 3/4 of a car between them. Is it that hard to pull all the way forward? Now, we hear in Luke, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Just like the parking, I find myself so prepared to judge and identify things I don't like. Social media like Facebook, dating apps, society has made judgment a click away. We can write comments about people we never meet. We can share how we feel or express our opinion on a topic we know almost nothing about. A few words, an angry face, a meme, we never see the effect our words have on one another. A month ago, we remembered the Passion of the Christ. I imagine the chief priests and the elders posting fake stories about a man named Jesus. Man proclaims he's the king of the Jews. They spread the news and the angry faces start counting up. Knowing nothing about the situation, an entire crowd stood in front of Pontius Pilate and condemned a man. People based their decisions off the gossip shared through the grapevine without experiencing it for themselves. In March, we headed to Nicaragua on an accompaniment trip. I've done my fair share of traveling, but I've never been south of Texas. Is it like a jungle scene where people live in tree houses? What do people do for work? Are Nicaraguans considered Hispanic? Will their houses be huge or small? I honestly wasn't sure what I was walking into. I arrived 2 days after the group and was welcomed by everyone as I walked through baggage claim. We promptly hopped on a bus and drove through Nica. There were trees, there was grass, no toucans or rainforest. We rode past vast banana farms, got stopped to ensure we weren't smuggling fruit into a fruit fly-free zone, and finally pulled into San Francisco Libre. The homes varied in size, shape, and color. I stayed with a man named Manuel. We're the same age, yet the argument can be made that we live very different lives, yet very similar lives. He lives in a rural community with a pig butcher for a neighbor, uses public transportation, and has lived in that same city his entire life. I'm pretty sure the closest thing to a pig near me is the bacon at Pick and Save. But we like to laugh. We enjoy soccer, we watch TV, we care about our communities, and we appreciate learning about other people. Through daily dialogue, we ask questions because curiosity creates compassion. How can we relate to our neighbors, our communities, our world until we understand their stories? Nicaragua may have popped up on your news feed or your television screen a few weeks back. Catchy news headlines including words like riots, violent protests, bullets fired. It took about 2 days, since that's how long it takes world news to reach my mom, and I got a phone call, and it went something like this. Did you see what's happening in Nicaragua? Yes. Well, I'm happy you aren't there right now. Why? There are protests, and people are getting shot. Well, Mom, you raised us near Chicago. Riots, protests, and bullets are covered on the daily news. This is the perfect example of my mom seeing something she knows a little bit about and hitting that angry button on Facebook. But as her list of places too dangerous to visit grows, I continually take the opportunity to remind her of the community she chose to raise us in. Every day on TV, we wake up to stories of violence in Chicago. A drive-by shooting with the death of a child, a robbery in the Loop, but also a community with one of the largest arboretums in the U.S., an annual festival dedicated to hot air balloons, And a public school system, though small, continuously achieves above the rest in the state. When we see world news stories, we're not provided the opportunity to see the whole picture, to learn their story, to explore our curiosity. Now join me for a second. Uncross your legs, put one hand on each knee, and close your eyes. Warm sun beats down on your face, the breeze wafting through your hair, laughter erupting from a group of kids playing. You're chatting with friends about their favorite music while enjoying some barbecue. Now open your eyes. You might be thinking of Memorial Day or the 4th of July, as do I. But it's also our evenings in Nicaragua. It clearly wasn't my vision of a jungle rainforest, or maybe your vision of Nicaragua, but it's certainly not riots and violent protests. I thought it would be different than home, but there were poor people and rich people. There were cars, buses, and bikes. There were dogs and cats. There were people of all colors. This does not negate the unique nature of our cultures, but emphasizes that there are positive and negative aspects of every community. One time, I asked Manuel, "Is there anything you do differently now that you're back from your accompaniment trip to the U.S.?" He said, "There's a lot of food waste in the U.S. I used to go out and buy 2 burritos, but now when I go shopping, I ask myself, do I really need this? Or will I throw part of it away?" It was one of my favorite moments because it validated the power that through dialogue that crosses borders, our curiosity creates change. When we experience someone else's life and recognize how we can make changes in our own. This verse in Luke reminds me of a reading in 1 John we used last week when Marquette's LCM became a Reconciling in Christ congregation. It goes, "Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister." I parallel this passage with Luke 6. If we're always judging each other, how can we love one another? Our main focus in Nicaragua was on the Women's and Youth Action Network, a group of teens my age that love their community so much that they commute for monthly workshops. We participated in dialogue about bystander intervention, consent, and teen pregnancy. One activity was called Conejos y Conejeres, meaning rabbits and rabbit cages. The activity required pairs to join hands in the air and a third person, the rabbit, to stand in between them. If the facilitator said Conejos y Conejeres, the rabbits ran to a new cage. If the facilitator said Conejeres y Conejos, then the cages ran around to find a new rabbit. We used the activity to mix up groups of 3 to discuss the definition of consent. Even with a mix of English and Spanish speakers, we shared our experiences. And despite being thousands of miles apart, the same examples and themes arose. Stories of friends struggling in school and later learning that they'd been abused, unwanted advances on a bus, and relationships with an abusive partner. We didn't know what to expect during the discussion, but our curiosity strengthened our connections with the teens, building compassion for people who were strangers mere hours before. Now I challenge you to look at world events and wonder about the people and the stories. What does she do for work? At the end of the day, how does he relax? What's her favorite birthday tradition? Curiosity strengthens connections, building compassion. When we acknowledge the ideas that make us unique, we better understand each other as a whole and realize that a country across the world is not much different than us. That we can stop judging and continue loving Because in the end, that extra 5-minute walk when my car doesn't fit in the first spot is 5 minutes extra that I can practice being more patient as I love the faults in myself. I thank you again for inviting me to worship with you this morning.